Yeah, and I never listened to you, she smiled and threw a bean at him. He dodged it and flicked a few drops of beer her way. They settled into an easy silence. John watched her cross-legged on the floor, forking the beans and sausages into a mouth. He found the bean she'd thrown between the cushion and the arm of the chair and pushed it absently with his fingertip. She seemed much calmer than usual. It was all down to that idiot of Andreas, he thought. She glanced up and grinned at him before digging back in. Maybe it wasn't good for her here, he thought. Maybe she could get over herself quicker with Finn than hanging around here with him. He didn't know what he'd been expecting when he asked her to stay. That he would be the one helping her. That they would find out it was right, what people used to say. He suddenly despised himself, and the shock of it came with an extraordinary physiological reaction. His brain snapped backwards, heavy shadows curling under the furniture. He dropped a hand onto the chair to steady himself. He had just, he decided, retrospectively wished Sarah's death on himself. Mavis was here because his happiness had been squashed flat like that cat for all to see. He'd had no time for anyone except Sarah, but Sarah was dead. Had he brought Mavis here to relive the old days? Or was it just for the same sense of why not that had saved his life? For the ennui, the weariness, the incredible boredom that had lagged him into every situation since he woke half dead on New Year's Day. Bored of the ache that it gave him to think about Sarah, a dull thing like the ghost of muscle cramp in the morning. Nothing to do but walk it off, give it a focus, kick the crap out of Andreas with the injured leg. Girlfriend dead next to you, and you know the impact of it, spreading like a mushroom cloud, has flattened so much of your past and future that you're bored of it in a second and want to go too, but you can't, not fast enough. And would you believe it, by the time you've thrown up a few times, the whole dying thing is old on you too, and you just want to get right out of the flat. You're saved. Praise be to boredom. He was bored now. Why aren't you eating your beans? Said Mavis. Give them here if you don't want them. Why are you looking at me like that? I was thinking about that cat. Mavis made sure she held his eye as she pushed once more with her fork at the grainy flesh of the sausage, then let her plate slide from her lap. Some of the beans and sausages slopped onto the threadbare carpet. Right, thanks a lot. She sulked for a moment, then reached for a cigarette which she brandished in his face. Anything you'd like to say to put me off cigarettes? No? Great. She got up and wandered onto the balcony, shaking her head. He followed her. She was leaning against the slats, her humour crackling to ash with the hot tip of the cigarette. Overreacting again, he gusted. I suppose you'll be in tears any second now. She blew him a sharp cone of smoke, full of stale sun. Don't be so ridiculous. What's wrong with you? You were all right a minute ago. There was a time when his dig about crime would have been a self-fulfilling prophecy, but there was hope yet for the cheap shops. So this is a normal reaction, is it? Storming out here at the slightest thing? I really don't know what you're on about, John. Well, all this drama over a cat. You've got to admit it's a pretty disgusting thing to bring up when people are eating, if you say so. They stood glowering at each other. An ambulance whinged past, 17 stories away, irrelevant. But you do overreact to things. He wasn't going to let it go. Why should he? Whatever, John. Mavis scuffed her fag underfoot and her chin was still high as she puffed out the last drag. I don't need an emotional babysitter. There you go again. I'm showing basic human concern about your situation and you say something ludicrous. Sometimes I think you need more help than I can actually give you. Help? Yeah, help. I don't need any help. What are you on about? You've got some kind of obsessional behaviour. All this new age bullshit. Drawing yellow squiggles all over your body. It's not the activity of someone with a stable emotional compass. That's what I'm on about. And sleeping with random girls months after your girlfriend dies, that's normal, is it? He made a move to his fag's pocket, looking for all the world like he was going to draw his sword on her. She couldn't help grinning, even though he was obviously suddenly very angry. What do you mean? He growled. Well, you know, what would you rather I did? Join you in your pointless hippie rubbish? Because believe me, nothing in the real world makes that any better. He jabbed his finger in the direction of the bedroom. She looked where he was pointing. What do you mean? Oh, you don't know, do you? In there, where you crawled all over me, that's where she died, and I nearly did. Oh, don't look at me all shocked. What did you think happened? Too self-obsessed to think it's true, that's she. And that's one thing that's never going to change, because it's not enough up here. Oh, don't worry, it's safe now. You'll be alright. What a relief, eh? I'm sure the world would really miss you. He stepped back into the flat, then turned once more to face her. Stay out of my way. Her eyes stayed dry, but went dark and matte, molten tar under the sun's footprint. He slammed the French door across, hard enough to rattle the slat she was leaning on. She saw him again minutes later, storming away from the block, an angry plot dislodging its way across the landscape. An hour had passed, and she was sitting on the balcony, legs through the slats. She used one dangling headed foot, then the other, to blot out the specks of kids fighting below her in the courtyard. She heard the French door sliding open, but kept her eyes down, chin pressed into flaking paint. There was a clunk concrete as John put a jar of mixed pickles down next to her. Present for you. Sorry about earlier. He kissed the top of her head and shut himself in his room for 16 hours. She noticed he hadn't been smoking.